audible and visible?
No, you are audible but not
Hello.
visible.
Am I? I'm not visible, but on.
Yes, now you're visible, but there is a little glitch with your audio.
Uh, is this okay now?
Not really. 15B, do you want to test up your mic?
Audible?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are 15B. Yes.
All right.
10A?
Fine.
10A, there is a lot of glitch with your audio.
Audible now?
Yes, you are.
Can I?
10A again, there's a lot of breakage in your audio.
Now is it okay?
Yes, it is.
Can I?
What?
Can I start? Am I not
No, just
audible
a
yet?
minute. Yeah, I mean, could you connect to a better network?
No, I don't have another network. This is the only network I'm having.
Okay, now it is better. Judges, are we good to go?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. 10A, your time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. My code is 10A and today's motion is Expel the Dragon and I stand for it. Trade figures suggest that India is the biggest importer of Chinese consumer goods. India imports 7 times more from China than it exports it. India has huge trade deficit with China, larger than any other country. In 2018 and 19, India's export to China were merely $16.7 billion, while imports were $70.3 billion, leaving a trade deficit of $53.6 billion. The range of goods that we import from China is massive consumer durables such as electronic goods, smartphones, industrial goods, and essential pharmaceutical products, including tuberculosis drugs and leprosy drugs. We do import a lot of goods and products from China, but the quality of products that they dump in India is substandard. It is a great for China to consume anything in India and make money out of it. As a result, our own entrepreneurs are not able to develop their business, and China is simply sucking money out of our economy. Today, towards this, the government of India has taken a very strong step. Nearly 371 categories of items like toy, paper, rubber article, etc., which are largely imported from countries such as China, will be bought under the mandatory Indian standard regime by next March. As suggested by the government of our country, we, the people, need to be vocal for local. And we actually easily cut a lot of Chinese products and replace it with indigenous goods. Let's take cosmetics for instance. We have lot of Indian brands which actually provide us with good products like L18, Himalaya Herbals, Khadi, and the list goes on. I know that many people will think that cosmetic is one thing, but in some sectors, India don't have good Indian brands. So here comes the need to be Atmanirbhar. We are full of resources. We just need the on 29th June, 56 Chinese origin apps were banned in India, and now the list of banned app is 118. I think this decision was mandatory as these Chinese apps are used actually to spy on other countries. And on top of it, China do not use Facebook, Google, Instagram, or any other social media app developed by other countries. Chinese government forced their own people to use apps made in their own country so that Chinese government can spy their own people too, because Chinese government cannot stand criticism. For this, I'm going to refer an instance. India Today's headlines read: Chinese doctor who first found out about coronavirus was censored. Now he's dead due to virus. I just don't understand why I didn't listen to Dr. Li Wang Liang. Standing this one for this because the doctor's statement stands true today. On top of it, if we go 20 years down the line, we can say that China gave five different viruses to the world, which clearly indicates that they are striving tirelessly to develop bioweapons. Now tell me, country that suck money out of your economy, earn millions by investing in our share market, startup companies, most ironically spread diseases and deaths to the whole world, not be exist. 60% of the land area is actually they have invaded small and weak countries like Tibet, Mongolia, Manchuria, and expanded their country boundaries. Chinese of 1952, after ceasefire was announced, China retreated from Arunachal Pradesh, but they still maintain their hold on Oxide Chin, which is a part of South. Interestingly, the dragon we are trying to expect is growing in size decade after decade. Today also, they have sore border relationships with 18 different countries, including India, Taiwan, Japan, Russia, and list goes on. So China's rule is simple: earn money from other countries and then start invading them by becoming economically stronger. Very recently, we have witnessed a burning example of this Spanish policy. 20 brave hearts have given their sacrifice defending our glory. So, with this full force, we must expel the dragon economy, markets, and most importantly, our territory. I'm done for now.
Yes, thank you.
Shall I start?
Just a minute, 15B. Rupa ma'am, there's a communication from the computation department that they haven't received the sheet. So if you could please resend it.
Yeah, I saw that I have sent it, but I will resend it. Just in a moment.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. If the judges permit, can we begin with 15B?
Yes.
15B, your time
Yes,
starts in. Yeah. 15B, your time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good afternoon, honorable judges and everyone present here. Today's topic for the discussion is Expel the Dragon, and I'd be seeking against the motion. First of all, I would like to give a brief introduction regarding the said issue and followed with some multiple ways which India has, and along with some economic reasons which India must take into account before taking any extreme step against the Republic of China. At last, I would be giving the conclusion followed with the rebuttal. The trajectory of the Indian-China crisis beginning at the Pangongso Lake on May 5th and the ensuing tragedy that led to the death of 20 Indian soldiers and Chinese casualties on June 15 raised and casualties in the Galwan Valley on June 15 raised some important questions regarding the contours of the Asian century pillared largely so far by China. It was the second time in last 1 year that there were calls in the social media platforms to boycott China, and people were burning Chinese products and destroying their expensive LEDs, the profits of which have already been received by China. In response to the above said two incidents, The Indian Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology had come with a notification on June 29th, which had banned 59 Chinese apps, followed with a ban on 2nd September on 118 Chinese apps. However, the reason stated by the ministry was that these companies were leaking the data of Indian users and hence infringing the sovereignty and integrity of the nation. However, many experts don't see it this way. The call for the complete blanket ban on China from various segments of the Indian population seems very irrational and ungrounded. And the very first question which comes into our mind is that whether the blanket ban is the only option left with Indians to deal with the China problem. The answer is absolutely no. There are multiple ways by which this red dragon can be tamed, and the reasons are muscle power, B, diplomatic options, C, international pressure by military strength. I would try to elaborate all these 3 points individually, starting with muscle power. It is an established fact that India is the second most largest army in the world, having around 1.5 million soldiers who are highly intelligent and skillful in combat. Secondly, it is also the world's most experienced army in hybrid mountain warfare. And this is not the only perception of Indians, but is also believed by Chinese intellectuals. For instance, on June 8, senior editor of Modern Weaponry magazine, Mr. Huang Gozi had said, quote unquote, world's most largest and experienced country is neither Russia nor USA, but India in plateaus and mountain troops. There are also several international assessments which state that India's armed forces have a qualitative edge over the People's Liberation Army. Moving on to diplomatic options. India should use this moment strategically by supporting Taiwan and reject the one China policy propelled by the Republic of China. It is no secret that Taiwan had been a victim of China's operation, and extending support to her would definitely help India while negotiating a deal with China. India can also gain advantage at the table by welcoming Tibetan spiritual leader and also Nobel Peace Prize awardee Dalai Lama, which would mean having support of the Tibetan people. Also, India can also overturn the decision of 2006, wherein India had allowed China to reopen their consulate in Kolkata, and India was not allowed to reopen its consulate in Lhasa at that time. Moving on to international pressure. India, being the member of a country of quadrilateral group, also known as Quad, comprising of four democracies, USA, Australia, India, and Japan, India can indulge in various military and naval exercises in order to put China at hold. And also recently, India had already called Australia for Malabar naval exercises. Now, I would like to draw your attention towards some economic reasons for not banning China. China is India's second largest trade partner, but India comes at number 8 in China's list and accounts for only 2.1 percentage of China's total trade. If we see the statistics in last financial year, the total trade between India and China was $80 trillion, out of which $56 trillion were imported by India. This clearly shows the dependency on China. Secondly, boycotting China could hit India's exports in a big way, as we import, as I mentioned earlier, there are the total amount of goods which were imported by India cost around $56 trillion, and we can clearly see the dependency of India on China. Thirdly, India could lose out on investments. My learned friend had talked about the Atmanirbhar policy propelled by our Honorable Prime Minister, but what about Make in India? Make in India, because of the Make in India, there were several companies which had come to India for investments. And if we see the statistics, the number of Chinese companies from 2003 to 2020 had rise, remarkably. The number of companies which were there in India in 2003 were only 213, and now, it was only 21, and now the companies that rise to 223 companies. At last, I would like to conclude by saying that instead of putting a blanket ban on China, India should impose high costs through taxes and import duties that outweigh Beijing's aggression gains. Secondly, India should explore other ways, as mentioned above, like the muscle power, diplomacy, and international pressure while dealing with China instead of a blanket ban. Indian army must change their strategy and respond to the Red Dragon in their own language, that is seize, hold, and talk, because that's what China has been doing all this long. They seize the property, they hold for some time, and then they come to the table for discussions. Now, I would like to counter what my learned friend had suggested. As I mentioned in my arguments, my learned friend had misquoted the figure. If we talk about the total trade between India and China in last financial year, it was not $70 trillion, but it was $80 trillion, around $80 trillion. And the total trade deficit was $56 trillion and not 53, as mentioned by my learned friend. Also, she mentioned about the Atmanirbhar, but I would like to point it out again that we should also look for the Make in India projects. And it is very highly unlikely that the government would react on such demands of complete ban on Chinese apps, because last year, if you see the statement given by the Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitharaman while answering a question in the Rajya Sabha, she made it very clear that it was not possible for India to put a blanket ban on Chinese products due to WTO rules. There are rules mentioned in the WTO, and we are the signatory party to it. And she also quoted, quote unquote, just because we may not like certain things about a country is not reason enough to block imports from that country. We could impose anti-dumping duties, but also there are established ways to go about it. And I would like to mention one thing, that all this time we are discussing the said issue, there are chances that India's Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, might have had a meeting with Chinese counterpart in Shanghai SCO meeting at
Your
Moscow.
time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, 15B.
Can I go for rebuttal on this?
No.